I turned, and the driver saw at first that their gun was coming around to meet us. When he saw that gun coming around, he floored it. And I fired the first shell on the run, and then we stopped and fired another one. And the third one, it caught fire. It exploded and started to burn up.
In this episode, we'll hear from Corporal Clarence Smoyer. Smoyer served in World War II as a tank gunner, first in the M4 Sherman tank, then in the larger M26 Pershing. After landing at Omaha Beach with the 3rd Armored Division, he fought his way across Europe and into Germany. There, he defeated a German tank in an astounding duel that was caught on camera, and he became known as the Hero of Cologne.
I was 21 when we went into Omaha Beach. Originally, I was the assistant gunner. I would load the machine gun, 30 caliber machine gun over my side, and also the 75, 76 we had usually. And we were told we just had to go into this village and straighten out the lines, push the Germans back a little bit. Well, we lined up getting ready to go, and we had a second lieutenant as platoon leader, and he got up on the fender on the front of the tank. He stood up there to brief us, and as he was talking, there was a shot in the background. He rolled onto the ground. A sniper got him before we even got into combat. So consequently, we went into battle the first day without our platoon leader. I think really everybody was scared when you went in like that, and especially like the first time. Well, I don't think you ever really get over it. You're always scared. When the tank commander would go to be briefed, he would come back and he smoked a pipe, and he couldn't hold the pipe steady in his mouth. His pipe would just bounce. He gets so nervous he couldn't hold his pipe still.
Smoyer and the 3rd Armored Division met fierce resistance as they pushed towards Germany. A relentless campaign filled with terrifying near misses and hard-fought victories.
Suddenly, that German tank was coming down behind us and had a real free shot at us back there. I don't know why he never fired, but I swung around, fired, and knocked him out. I never looked into the tanks after we knocked them out like that, because I worried that might slow me down the next time I had to pull the trigger and think about what I saw inside the other tank.
Finally, on March 6, 1945, they reached the outskirts of Cologne.
We got in a terrible artillery barrage there. It was like they were bombing us. You wonder if you're going to survive or not. The artillery shell or a mortar shell landing right on top of the turret is almost instant death for the tank commander, because he's standing right there with his head up there. And that happened back in the hedgerows when a mortar landed there, and he was like mush when they tried to get him out there. They said they picked all, couldn't lift him out. They hit us with a lot of artillery there, and we finally moved ahead more. And I remember one of the lieutenants got on the phone and he said, "Gentlemen, I give you Cologne. Let's knock the hell out of it." And of course, we started firing out to the left. Cologne was on the left side there. And we started to fire into there, and we went down. There was an underpass where they had pushed trolley cars to block us. There we had to stop and drag them out of the way so we could go in the other pass. we went into Cologne, and there was like mortar fire, sniper fire. Camouflage cars were coming in from the right side, and we would fire the machine guns and cut them down there. And suddenly I looked to the left, and I see the front end of a German tank coming out beside the building. And by the time we got an armor-piercing shell into the chamber and swung over there, he backed away. He must have seen us and backed up. So we started to fire into that building, which he was the side of. I thought maybe if we fire armor-piercing shells, they would go through the building and maybe still get him, you know. But evidently he just kept on backing up and went all the way down to the cathedral. Well, as things quieted down, then we went down the streets, and they tell me the streets were like a wagon wheel with the spokes all going to the center at the Dome Plaza, right at the cathedral. Each street led in like that.
It was there that Smoyer and his crew crossed paths with combat cameraman Jim Bates, who was cautiously filming what he believed to be a destroyed German Panther Mark V battle tank.
As we went down toward the cathedral, this Jim Bates, he got ahead of the front line troops with his camera. He was down at a street where he could shoot in at the plaza, the Dome Plaza. And he saw the Mark V sitting there and thought it was destroyed. He was filming it when it opened fire and knocked the tank out on the other street, that street over from us. And that's where the three men were killed. And they radioed over to us and asked us if we would go down and try and get him, surprise him and get him, because his gun was pointing at them, and we would come down, and he's supposed to be looking away from us. We were to fire, go to the intersection, then I was to turn the gun right, because his gun was so long, you couldn't turn it out to the side to go down, you know. Had to keep it forward. And as soon as I could, turn the gun to the right, fire, and then turn back and put it in reverse and get out of there in case we didn't knock him out. Well, as it worked out, we went down. Like I said, the gun was forward, and as I came to the intersection, I turned, and the driver, he had his periscope turned looking up that way. He saw it first that their gun was coming around to meet us. And when I got there and looked through the side, I like looking right into the barrel of their cannon. And he was supposed to stop, like I said, and then fire back up. But when he saw that gun coming around, he didn't stop. He floored it. Put it all the way down the floor as fast as we could go forward. And I fired first shell on the run, hit him, and then we stopped and fired another one, and then the third one, it caught fire, it exploded and started to burn up. But maybe if he had stopped there, we might have been the ones burning up there, you know. But he kept going, and like I say, when I turned and looked up there, it was like looking into that hole, and that gun tube looks mighty big when you're looking right at it. So anyway, it started to burn, and I knew two of the crew I saw them go out. And I didn't go back and look in that afterward, because I knew some of them died in there, and somebody had told me that the two of them were burned up inside, and the gunner, my first shot hit by the gun shield and ricocheted down and went in and cut his legs off. And Bates, the photographer, tells me that he crawled out. He got to the top of the tank and couldn't go anymore, so he burned up on top of the tank. Two burned up in there, and he told me that the two that got out, one ran down the street, he fell over and died. And the other one, he turned and went behind the tank, and he fell over a bicycle there and died in the spot there too. They were, all of them were badly wounded anyway. But I spent a lot of time wondering if any of them survived, you know. And when I got the video from Bates, and he told how they died, and it hurts. It still hurts, you know. Even though they were the enemy, they were still humans. Like my cousin was killed in the war, and my wife's brother was killed in the war. And I know both the families there that really harmed their families. They're never the same after that. But I often wondered how many of those death notices I sent out, because a lot of them, I know, a lot of times. For a long time, I didn't talk about it, not at all. My wife or my kids, nobody knew anything about what happened during the war. Never talked about it until in later years, when we started to go to these reunions. They encouraged us to record our stories, because they said the history is being changed, and if you don't record your stories, it's going to be changed. They won't even know what happened. But that was, maybe 8 years ago or so, when they started to push us to talk about the things, and then I started to tell my wife about what happened, and the kids didn't know until Pelton's book came out, and they read the book. They didn't know much about it before that. But it for me, I don't know about anybody else, but for me it's hard. Even though at the time they were the enemy, and you had not much feeling for them, but later on for me it was hard. It was hard. I always think about back there at Mons, where they kept coming across the field. I must did a lot of damage to them there. I talked to a doctor at the hospital, VA hospital in Allentown, and I think his name was Simbrat, which to me sounds like it might be a Jewish name. When he came into the room, he said, "Mr. Smoyer, before I start examining you, I want to tell you, I'm very proud of what you fellows did for the world when you were in World War II." And he said, "Just think what would have happened if you hadn't gone over there and Hitler had taken over everything." He said, "It would be a different world around here today than it is now." But he said, "I'm very proud of what you did anyway, you fellows." And he gave me an examination. I tell you, he really gave me an examination. He gave me going to all different doctors for tests, x-rays. But he appreciated it. Anyway, I believe he was Jewish, because that sounded like a Jewish name to me, which he might have more feelings for us. I did my job. I said anybody else in the gunner seat there, they would have done the same as I did, I think. After the war, after we started to go to reunions, I met a man from Bath, Pennsylvania, which is 25 miles away from my hometown. In fact, he was instrumental in getting me started to go to reunions. But he used to, when he found out that I was a gunner in the tank at Cologne, he always used to say to me, "Mr. Smoyer, you saved my life in Cologne. You saved our whole crew, He said, we had a light tank. We were no match at all, and we had orders to go down and get that tank. He said, we were no match for him. We would have been killed. I said, really, I didn't have time to play hero. I said, I saved my life and our crew's life. And I said, you came along for the ride. You were just lucky enough to go along for the ride. 'Cause you truly, you don't have time to think about anybody else. I never had time to think about a hero or anything like that. I was the only original from our crew. Our original crew still with the E7 tank at the end of the war. They all were killed now. First in that police gap, or closed that gap. But they lost so many of the crews along the way, or the men from the crews, that they start taking like a gunner and make a tank commander, or the driver and make a tank commander, and everybody move up and get replacements for the assistants. So anyway, first of all, our gunner went, and that put me over in the gunner seat, and we got a replacement. Then they took the driver and made a tank commander out of him, and we got another replacement for our driver. But like I say, even those guys that came in, they were no longer with us at the end of the war. They had moved on to different spots. I was the only one from the original crew still in E7 at the end of the war.
That was Corporal Clarence Smoyer. To learn more about Clarence Smoyer, check out the New York Times best-selling book about him and his division called Spearhead. Warriors in Their Own Words is our attempt to present an unvarnished, unsanitized truth of what we have asked of those who defend this nation. Thank you for watching, and by doing so, honoring those who've served. This program was produced by Evergreen Podcasts and Documentary.tv. I'm your host, Ken Harbaugh. If you've enjoyed this episode, please comment, share, and subscribe below.